Hi, thanks for talking to me today. I'm Jamie from Sci-Fi-Vision. I appreciate your time. I'm really enjoying the series. Um,
Hi,
Great to meet you,
Jamie.
Jamie.
Nice to
Thanks
meet
for
you.
watching.
so can you start by talking about where the idea came from originally? I'm not sure which one of you came up with it, so whoever wants to answer.
Well, we come up with everything exactly simultaneously, so
The best place.
we don't need
Yeah.
to keep score. We were interested in a lot of things. We were watching The Maisel Salesman. We were reading Arthur Miller again, and then one day we were with Ryan Khalil, who's a good friend and a brilliant producer on the show, and he showed us these vintage training videos for salesmen. They were like teaching you how to be a great car salesman in the 1950s, and they were full of these hokey reenactments where the kid would be like, you're telling me if I get Mrs. Bartlestein in the new wagon, then maybe one day I'll be an assistant manager just like you. That's right, son. And they were so obviously they're so innocent and sort of inspiring in that way. They're just like a pure, lucid encapsulation of this American dream that we work hard and we sell each other things and we all get happier. But at the same time, also really eerie and grim, because these people are completely, they're deluding themselves that they're not caught in the gears of this sort of hulking capitalist thing that's going to maybe, I've heard it happens, that it sort of wrings all of the joy and humanity out of you. So that paradox to us was inspiring. Like, what does the salesman tell themselves to make themselves a great salesman? And that's where we came up with the character of Jack Billings, who is the greatest salesman because he believes deeply in the promises that he's making to you.
The other thing, and you kind of touched on this, but I wanted to ask is if you could, and Amit will let you talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
If you could talk about sort of the style. I mean, you've gone with the retro look, and I think it's really cool. I was surprised too that even some of the technology is is kind of retro as much as it's in the future. Can you just sort of talk about that?
There's dreaming back to something that's going to save us, and there's dreaming into the future of something's going to save us, and turns out we might just be stuck here in the present. The actual design of the world, it was desperate for us to make it lived in, to feel practical, that the robots made mistakes, that they didn't really help you that much in what they were supposed to do. There's a little bit of rust here, a little bit of motor oil there, and that meant everything, even in the art direction. That meant the carpets needed to be aged down, because the world that we were sold that this world is based on comes from advertising. And it comes from advertising in the early 20th century all the way through kind of mid-century. And, it's what created the American dream and the white picket fence. And in that world, everything worked and everything was shiny. And in the world of tomorrow, it's its own thing. But what happens when you land in it? What happens when you've lived in it for 20 years? And your hover car, drags a little on the curb or whatever. That was important to us in drawing the world, and we think gives it that texture that makes it fun to be in, but also able to resonate, kind of dramatic scenes on top of.
Yeah, I love the look. And I was going to say, Lucas, going off what you said, though, I assume that the whole idea to make it retro came from the videos from the beginning.
Yeah, we were fascinated with the idea of setting a show in a delusion, in a fantasy that was sold to us by advertising, because this is ultimately a show about a group of delusional people, or dreamers, you could call them, or optimists, whose delusions are so desperate and so potent that they have the power to sort of change the very fabric of the world they're living in. And, when we were writing our characters, in the writer's room, we would say, no, we're not talking about their motivations or their plans in life. We're talking about the stories they're telling themselves about what their lives should be or are. We're talking about the fictions that they need to get out of bed in the morning. And this show asks the question of, what's life like when that sales pitch, when that fiction meets the inevitable lived reality?
Right. I was just going to say, hope it is a very powerful thing.
And a
Yeah,
very
it's
dangerous
very
thing.
dangerous.
That too, that too.
And,
All
you know,
right.
you
Well,
can't
thank
have
you.
one side of it without the other. And it's so wonderful that's coming out of the show for you.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh.
I'm looking forward to other people seeing it so we can talk about it.
Yeah,
Great
thanks
pleasure.
so much. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.